Hello, welcome to this week's episode of the UFOcast. This is an interview with Alan Perry, recorded earlier this year at ShadoCon 2. I had a brief sit down with him in the green room, and I started by asking him how he got involved with Gerry Anderson in the first place.
Well, basically speaking, I was working as a clapper boy on Robin Hood with Richard Green, going back many, many years, and the production secretary on that was Sylvia Tham. And when the series actually finished, she said, would you like to... my boyfriend's just started up a programme called Supercar. Would you consider being a clapper boy on it? Would you come across and have an interview? I said, yeah, not a problem. And this was in Slough. And I went across on one Saturday morning, met Gerry, and he said, look, we'd like you to employ you. There's a series of 13, this was Supercar, and we'll offer you X amount of money. So I said, that's fine, that's good, I'll commute. Ashford was about 8 miles from Slough, so it wasn't too bad. So that's basically how I got into the Anderson family, if you want it for a better word, because Sylvia then matched up with Gerry, got married, and that's when it all started. Supercar in its own right was a success, and then we really stretched it a little bit further. We did Fireball XL5, that was the next one we actually did, which was moving forward again on more special effects, we were pioneering, we were trying to find out ways to make things look better, and that series went down very, very well. We went on from that to our first colour production, which was Stingray. Our Stingray was in my opinion, it was a fantastic show. It was, and we learnt a lot. We were shooting through tanks with small fish in foreground. We had roller back-ins for where vehicles could go. We had cut down sections of cars so we could shoot the puppets actually in the cars themselves, then cut back to a wide shot and the car goes through frame. No, we pioneered, and then that's when we really went into, in a big way, back projection. And that we sort of got involved with back projection, where we went out, shot our plates, and then put people, in front of them. After that, we did Thunderbirds, which was really, I think that was Gerry's heyday. That was the programme. And we did a lot of Thunderbirds, and when Lou Grade saw it, he said, this is fantastic. He said, look, we've got to make a feature film out of this. And I was involved on the making of the feature film. After that, everyone knows Captain Scarlet came along, and we did a lot of series of Scarlet. They redesigned the puppets, the heads were smaller. We used actually false eyes in the puppets, which made them look much more realistic. The mouth mechanisms and the lip was improved upon. And they actually brought in half puppets then, where you could operate from underneath, so with no strings. That was Gerry's big bane, actually. That was the thing that got to him. He hated
the strings, yeah.
Hated them with a vengeance. And being on the camera side, it was my job to get rid of them. So I used to use powder paint to blend them into the backgrounds, and we did it that way. But then it was really great when we had the remote control, or the controls underneath, which was great for flying stuff on Captain Scarlet, because
you would need to shoot them from the waist up.
Yeah,
anyway, yeah.
And when they were in the canopy as well, you could have the full canopy. You didn't have to have the hole in the top and no strings. It was much better for the puppeteers. Yeah, they could do a lot more with them. They could lean, they could do. So that all worked very, very nicely. And then after that, we did Joe 90, which I enjoyed. I directed quite a few of the Joe 90s. Then we did Secret Service, which was with Stanley Unwin, who played the vicar, and a man who was in a suitcase. He could shrink and take them away. Anyhow, that was the end, really, basically, of the puppet side. And along came UFO. And I was very fortunate to be invited to direct a few of those, which I did, thoroughly enjoyed. And I'm here today, basically, because that's what I worked on. And it's... who would think in all these years we'd be talking about
Indeed.
UFO?
And you said at the start that you worked as a clapper Boy
on Supercar.
On Supercar.
On Supercar.
And by the time you were at UFO, you were directing. What was the progression like in terms of the jobs that you did on those different shows?
Within the camera department, because that's one of my hobbies, I love cameras. Within the camera department, you start as a clapper loader, then you move up to a focus puller, that's keeping the puppets, and which, because they're so small, was quite a job. And you go from that up to a camera operator, and that was my main. That's what I loved, operating the camera and tracking the camera, and that's where I became quite creative on that side, working alongside the director, saying, "Look, we can do that to that. If you want to get him from there to there, I can," and that worked really, really well. And I think that took me in good stead when Captain Scarlet came out.
So that was your first directing job was Captain Scarlet?
Captain Scarlet, yeah. And the first one I did was a programme called Manhunt. Did quite a few of those. Then, as I say, we did Joe 90, which was another pretty good series. And then it was Secret Service with Stanley Unwin and the Model T Ford and the other bits. And then, as I say, we moved on to live action, which was Jerry Anderson. That's what he was dying to do all the way along. Wanted to get into a live action series.
And so, you having cut your teeth directing puppets and miniatures, how was that when you were suddenly thrown into directing actors?
Well, much harder directing puppets to people, believe it or not. But still, it's more frightening for the director. That's when it was sort of, these people can answer back. They couldn't. And it was really good to work with people. And the main cast that he'd employed, Jerry and Sylvia, were good people. They were professional people, and they had ideas alongside you as a director. And if you worked with them, you ended up with a good product at the end of it. And really, that's what brought me on. That's what I enjoyed doing. I've been down and watched Killstraker, which was one of mine, and it still holds its own now. It's, let's put it this way. It's given me a career for the last 50-odd years, which I've thoroughly enjoyed. It's been great.
So Killstraker was one that you did. What were the others that you worked on, if you can recall?
Responsibility, Seat, Survival, Close Up, one more. Teletech Affair. They were mine. Yeah.
And
all on the moon. They must have had an idea that I'd be the moon
guy.
Yeah.
Just briefly, if you could share some of your recollections of the cast. So obviously you would work closely with Ed Bishop and George Sewell,
but also and Michael Billington.
And also the guest artists each time.
As well, yeah.
Were you involved in casting any of those people?
No, the casting was done by a casting director and Sylvia Anderson. As Sylvia actually designed a lot of the costumes as well. That was her side. Yeah. The casting and that side of it. Everything just sort of dovetailed in. As I say, we could always get a meeting with Ed if my script was coming up. But don't forget, he was shooting another script with another director, and I've got a new script. I'm breaking it down, looking at it, thinking the way I'm going to do it, and then sit down with Ed and the lads in the bar one night, looking through. What do you think this? I want to try and get me from there to there. How can we do it where it's going to work? And don't forget, we might be shooting that last and that first. So you've got to get your performances right. You've got to bring it up to that level for that sequence and that level to another. So yeah, working with professional main cast was great, and the people they brought in were, exactly the same again. They were professional people.
Were you conscious of the amount of money that was being spent on the show, and did you feel an extra kind of responsibility because of that?
Well, yes, it was, because that was supposed, or we heard, it was going to be the most expensive TV series made. And I think it was. I don't know whether they've repeated it in this day and age, but whatever. You felt responsible, but when you walked on the sets and saw the sets, and you saw the costumes, and you think, it gave you confidence. Look, they've put it together. This is good. This is going to work. We can make it work. And as I say, I've had a fantastic career, and a lot of it was taught to me by the puppets to start with, and then the live action. They couldn't answer back the puppets, by the way.
And so UFO was The last thing that you did for the Anderson
Last thing I
stable?
did, as I said, I got called up north, and which are where I live now, to look at a TV commercial. Met somebody who said the Yorkshire Television was now coming on stream, and there was a vacancy up there. Things went quiet for me on the other side, so I commuted for a year, moved up, set up the company, and it's still going to this day. So, yeah, but not by me, by my son now. Yeah, and that's the story of my time up to now.
Thank you very much, Alan Perry. Thank you.
No problem.
Thanks once again to the organisers of ShadoCon 2 and to Alan Perry. What a great interview. And Michael and I will see you next time on the UFOcast.